What a miserable hike. Morning, campers. Terrible night's sleep. Pouring rain all night, as you can hear. Wind blowing through the trees. Sound like a freight train or a tidal wave coming through the forest every time. This isn't helping my remnants of my respiratory infection, I'll tell you that. So the plan now has changed. It's just going to be raining all day again. And it's going to be a little worse. And heavier rain and wind. So my new plan is to push to the Eagle's Nest shelter. The Eagle's Nest shelter is 6.1 miles from here. I should be able to do that, depending on the trail conditions, 3 to 4 hours. It's about 6:30. I'm going to try to get out of here by 8. I have to get all packed up. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my extra Ursack liner that I have and use that as a pack liner and put all my critical stuff inside a pack liner inside my pack. So the stuff that's already in dry bags will also be inside a pack liner. Just as double protection, because I have to keep this puffy jacket dry, my sleep clothes dry, my sleep pad, my pillow, and my sleeping bag dry. I'm just going to have a quick protein bar for breakfast and a little bit of iced tea. My water is out there filtered. I filtered a 1.5 liters last night. It's just hanging out there. I hope it's still there. And then just packing up everything else. I have to decide what I'm going to wear. I'm going to be putting on wet clothes. I'm going to try to minimize that. I'm not going to put a shirt on. I'm going to put my fleece on. My fleece is wet. It's about half wet. The fleece is supposed to keep you warm when it's wet, at least up to a point. I'm not going to wear my shorts, I don't think, because they're just wet and they just cling to me and they're just heavy, wet, cold pants. I'm going to wear my underwear just to prevent chafing. And then I'm going to do my normal sock routine. I'm not going to wear my calf compression sleeves because those are just wet, and I'm only going 6 miles. I don't see the benefit there. So I'm going to lube up my feet with trail toes. I'm going to completely coat my feet to try to protect them from the water. Give them a thin coating of trail toes. Put my sock liners on. Put my Dry Max socks on. My gaiters and my shoes. My rain pants, my rain jacket. I think I'm not going to wear this hat. I'll save this for tonight. I'll keep this dry. And I'll put my other thin merino wool beanie underneath my regular baseball cap style cap. My baseball cap is soaked, but I like having the brim to keep the rain off my face. So I'll have that merino wool beanie underneath that to keep my head a little bit warmer with that wet hat on. And a raincoat on, and I'll probably wear my brush-tail possum gloves underneath my rain mitts just to keep my hands as warm as possible in this horrendous rain. And then when I get to Eagle's Nest shelter in 3 to 4 hours, I'll just hang stuff up to dry as much as possible, and I'll just make a day of it there, and I'll just relax. I'll have one of my dinners for lunch. I'll have a hot lunch, and then I'll have another dinner for dinner. I have plenty of dinners. I have 5 or 6 dinners left, I think. So I'll have 2 hot meals today, and I'll just hang tight, and I'll do some reading, and I'll just dry out, and I'll stay warm in my sleeping bag. And I guess Ness is headed there today as well. He's got a longer hike. He's got to do 15 miles, I think. No. Yeah, 15 miles to get to Eagle's Nest. So he's got a long day in this rain. So anyway, I'm going to save him a spot. And then tomorrow we hike the last 9 miles to Port Clinton and either walk into Hamburg and go to the Microtel or get an Uber to the Microtel, whatever we feel like. So that's the plan. Wish me luck. It's going to be a tough one. Even though it's only 6 miles, it's going to suck. I'm going to be cold and wet, and I'm going to have to move and get my body warm as possible so I can get there and then get out of my wet clothes and get into my dry stuff. All right, we'll see how it goes. It is miserable outside. I am inside the Eagle's Nest shelter. And I'm cozy in my sleeping bag right now. I have stuff hanging up all over. Clothes hanging up. Every single peg has something hanging on it. Something to dry or drip dry or some way, shape, or form. Dry. I even have stuff hanging off the rafter here because I ran out of pegs. Stuff on the pegs over there. I laid out my ground sheet to try to dry one side of that anyway, so that I could put my sleeping pad on it. All my stuff from my pack is spread out all over the place. And there are my shoes, soaking wet. That's what these little booties are for. You put those over my socks and keep my socks dry and still put them in my shoes. Here I have some of my book, my headlamp, my glasses. There's my lunch. It's going to be a hot lunch of navy bean soup. Just letting that rehydrate. And here I am. This is my sleeping bag. I got my sleeping pad. And I'll turn it around on me. And here's me. What a miserable hike. 2.5 hours. I did 6.3 or 6.4 miles in 2.5 hours, which is spectacular time. Considering the circumstances, I was soaking wet. Everything I had on was wet. I was cold. The trail was mostly flooded out. At least 80% of the trail was just underwater. So I either had to trudge through it or go around the edge of it or stepping stones across it. The water was the worst part. The rocks weren't too bad in this particular this section. The section I did was from about 0.2 miles south of Pennsylvania 183, Route 183, up to the Eagle's Nest Shelter. And that's about, as I said, it's about 6 miles from the route to the turn to the side trail to the shelter. The shelter is 0.3 miles off the trail. It's quite a ways off the trail. And you have to cross a raging creek. It's normally just a stream where you get your water, but it was raging. And luckily there was a log across it, and I kind of was able to get across, but that was pretty intense. So this is kind of a dark shelter. As you can see, it's an older shelter. I'll show it to you again. It's got a couple of little, windows in the back here. It's got 3 of those. But it's kind of dark inside, it's all wood, and there's no sunlight or sunlight. There's no loft. There's room comfortably. You could sleep 5 in here, probably 6, if the conditions warrant, but you'd be shoulder to shoulder with 6 people in here. Any more than that, and you'd be pretty crowded. I'm hoping that nobody else shows up other than Ness. Ness is coming, so he says. He's got a 15-mile hike. I had a 6.3 or 6.4 mile hike. So he has more than twice as much to do as I did. And it's miserable. You're cold, you're wet, there's no avoiding it. Rocks, water on the trail. It's a disaster out there. I mean, the trail's flooded out. There's absolutely no attempt at drainage or water mitigation or erosion control on this stretch of the trail for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because it's so level, but that's the problem. The water just sits there. It collects and it has nowhere else to go. And in some spots where there is an incline or decline, it becomes a creek. So you're actually, hiking upstream or downstream, as the case may be. Anyway, everything is soaked except for my sleep clothes and this puffy, and I got the zipper stuck somehow. I have to loosen that up. Anyway, but I'm going to eat a hot lunch for the first time on the trail because I have enough dinners. So I'm having one of my dinners for lunch, so a hot lunch, and then I'll have one of my other dinners for dinner tonight. So lots of warm food, keep me warm and toasty, and then I'm just going to sit here and read and relax and stay nice and cozy in my sleeping bag. And that's basically today. There's not much more to talk about. Sorry. An uneventful, cold, wet, dreary, dismal day. See you later.